All right, let's talk more about these Iranian developments with tonight's opening panel. E.J. Kimball is a security analyst at the Middle East Forum, and Iman Forough is a spokesperson for the Iran Liberation Congress. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. E.J., I'd like to start with you and these indications from the Iranian regime that it's willing to negotiate with the U.S., conflicting reports on the terms and the conditions, but it does seem like Tehran is moving in the direction of talks, doesn't it?
It does. And Michelle, thanks for having me back on the show tonight. It does show that they're opening up to talks. And I think there's a few factors at play here. And the most important one is the position of strength that President Trump has taken with Iran over the last 2+ years. He's been very clear on how terrible the JCPOA was and is, removed the U.S. from it, is reimposed sanctions upon Iran, and it's having the desired impact, which is to bring Iran back to the table, which was the success of the sanctions originally, and then President Obama gave away everything to the Iranians. So it's almost at a point of a reset to where things were a few years ago. And now the question is, in which I'm sure I know the answer regarding President Trump, the position of the U.S. in a potential negotiation with Iran moving forward.
Even the Trump administration has said that its intended goal is to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, to stop Iran's aggression in the region, to end Iran's sponsorship of its terrorist proxies, and to curtail Iran's missile program. It has said that the intended goal is not regime change. As someone that is advocating for regime change, what do you make of that?
Hi, Michelle. Well, because of U.S. laws, no president, including Donald Trump and his cabinet, they cannot really mention regime change, that's their goal, or if they want to overthrow a government. But we know from all the evidence last couple of years and the conditions that U.S. has put on the Islamic Republic that it will definitely have that effect, especially because of the bad economic situation. You add that to the dissatisfaction of the Iranian people, to the brutal nature of this regime. It's only a matter of time before the people of Iran themselves, with the moral support of the democratic countries and the groups like my organization, Iran Liberation Congress, we can help them to actually rise up and through civil disobedience bring down this regime. So I would say President Trump, as being the President of the United States, his foremost and first intention and responsibility is security of the United States and its allies, rather than changing a regime. But the outcome might be the same.
All right, so I'm understanding you're not objecting to this message coming from the Trump administration. We'll continue this conversation after the break. Iman and EJ, stick around. We will also be discussing an I-24 News exclusive story that identifies the Iranian engineering mastermind behind Iran-backed Hezbollah's missile program in Lebanon and Syria. And those missiles are a big talking point in the upcoming Israeli elections, and so is the Russian vote. We'll get an update on the campaign efforts as we are now just 2 months away from election night. And in the U.S. elections, Joe Biden continues to see his primary opponents gain ground on him in the polls. And wait until you hear what he said about Obamacare.
From the deeply personal to the universally shared, from the local story to the global picture, from the politics shaping our world to the people most affected by them. High Definition will take you on a journey that will spark your curiosity and speak to your heart, combining in-depth interviews, original reporting, and riveting storytelling with the fascinating world of documentaries.
On stateside, it's not just about delivering the news. It's about giving meaning to the news and doing so with clarity.
These families waiting to get into the country, how long will they be in detention?
Fact-based journalism, live breaking news, and stories right from where they happen.
This is Zimbabwe's Berlin Wall moment.
Because what happens around the rest of the world can have a huge impact on the United States, and what happens in the United States can have a huge impact on the rest of the world. That's stateside.
Go beyond the headlines every day on I-24 News. Host Ami Kaufman talks to the news makers and pundits to bring you the story behind the headlines.
Catch the Spin Room, Mondays and Thursdays, only on I-24 News.
Welcome back. And back to our top story. Iran's foreign minister has suggested for the first time that the Islamic Republic's ballistic missile program could be up for negotiations with the U.S. Although Iran has subsequently tried to backpedal, signs seem to point towards Iran moving in the direction of the negotiating table. Meanwhile, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is warning that Tehran will continue developing its nuclear program in violation of the 2015 deal. All this as U.S. officials suspect Iran may have seized a United Arab Emirates oil tanker traveling through the Persian Gulf. Let's bring back my panel, E.J. Kimball, security analyst at the Middle East Forum, and Iman, spokesperson for the Iran Liberation Congress. EJ, how likely is it that Iran is indeed behind this attack on that UAE oil tanker?
It's pretty likely, Michelle. Yeah, the Iranians threatened to respond to the seizure of its oil tanker by the British, and then a couple days later this happens. And of course, the Iranians aren't denying this, and they're trying to ratchet up the pressure on the international community as they're giving signs that they're willing to negotiate perhaps on their nuclear weapons deal. They're trying to exert some sort of power, some show of force, so that they have some type of leverage in a negotiation. But I think this raises the more important question, which is the nature of the regime in Iran, which is a terror-sponsoring regime, and these sorts of activities are threatening world energy supplies. And this is something that European countries need to come to the realization that Iran is not a country pursuing nuclear weapons that should be allowed to continue down the path that it's on.
And Iman, yet the Europeans are still trying very hard to save this deal, and they're largely ignoring all of these new aggressive behaviors from the regime in Tehran. Now we also have the Supreme Leader saying that Tehran is going to further violate the deal. Now remember that the Europeans have recently said that the previous violations weren't significant enough to warrant snapback sanctions. Why do you think Europe insists on keeping this position, and what message does this send to Iran?
Well, it certainly sends a conflicting message to Iran and the rest of the world, and especially the Iranian people who have been looking to the democratic countries, U.S. and Europe, to help them out against this brutal regime. However, we should note that during the last 40 years, the main beneficiary of the transactions, financial benefits of dealing with Iran has been for UK, for France, and Germany. So they have everything to lose with a war or something like that starting, because they just want to make money and get the revenues from Islamic Republic and dealing with them against the will of the Iranian people. So they're doing their best. They came up with that financial system, which is not working yet because of U.S. sanctions. And I do not believe that it's going to happen. And no matter how much they downplay the violations of the P5+1A agreement, eventually they have come to the fact that Islamic Republic is a terrorist jihadist country, and they will cheat and lie, and they have this concept in Shia Islam called taghiye, which means these guys can actually lie and cheat, sign any contract, and then do against it just because they think it goes to the benefit of Shia Islam. So I wouldn't believe anything that Islamic Republic signs or agreements that they decide that to go by.
So, Iman, if you can't believe anything that the Iranians sign, is there any point in the Trump administration getting a new agreement out of Tehran if indeed his strategy works and they do come back to the negotiating table?
I think that there's a possibility because fortunately the Trump administration, unlike the Obama administration, hopefully after they sign an agreement, as part of the agreement, they will have a very tight monitoring system in order to monitor the behavior of the Islamic regime. Remember that the P5+1 does not allow the IAEA or other visitors to just go at any time to Natanz or other places before making an appointment, and also allows Islamic Republic to take their own videos and their own photos of the place and say, look, we're not doing anything bad or anything wrong. So if we have a very good monitoring system, it is possible that we can actually make sure that the Islamic Republic does not do any more missiles, and even furthermore, the third element of atomic work, which is actually building the miniatures, hats for the missiles. So there's still a lot of work to be done.
Indeed, there is. Iman, Frouten, E.J. Kimball, thank you so much. Appreciate it.